so it dawned on me that this is the third year in a row that I've preached this text on this Sunday. This is sort of an anniversary Sunday of sorts. And so I want to take a quick moment and thank all of those who made last week possible so that this week feels like a fresh start for me. Our leadership came to me just a couple of weeks before Christmas after Ryan got home after our long extended hospital stay and said, we want you to take one of the Sundays off. And we already had Christmas Day planned, which was so much fun. We had so much fun here on Christmas Day. And so I agreed to take New Year's Day off. So I want to thank Carol for preaching last Sunday in a church full of retired and semi-retired and sort of retired minister types about. A brave laywoman steps forward to say a beautiful word about resolutions and making choices in our life. And so thanks to Carol and to all of our lay folks who stepped up to help last week. I am grateful. I am grateful for that kind of leadership of this congregation. And I'm grateful to Tim for filling in for Jonathan this week so that Jonathan could also have a little vacation. And we'll have everybody back in their regular spots next week, God willing. But this is the third year that I have preached this sermon. Not this sermon, but this scripture in this pulpit. And so maybe the third time will be a charm. Maybe. Perhaps I feel like I haven't quite said what I want to say around this scripture, or perhaps I keep choosing it because it seems to be the right story to start off each new year. A story about journey and discovery. This year is a little more complicated than the last 2 years, partially because the church calendar is a little complicated. See, the world, the outside world, follows the calendar of Target, right? And so the holidays are over and we are on to Valentine's. And as somebody at the 8:30 service said, the Christmas decorations are 90% off. Get yours today. Christmas is over. Trees are down. Wreaths are put away. And just like, as many of you know, I hate sliding past Thanksgiving. I feel like each year I have a responsibility to fight back against the war on Epiphany. I don't think there's a war on Christmas in this country. I think there's a war on Epiphany. We skip it most of the time. Epiphany is, in case you don't know, the official church celebration for the coming of the wise ones, however many there were of them, to the home of the Holy Family to bring their gifts. Now, technically, Epiphany was on Friday. Why was Epiphany on Friday? Because there are 12 days of Christmas, and the 12 days of Christmas are after December 25th, not before. And so Friday, technically, was Epiphany, but I didn't think many of you would come. And so we moved it to today. And technically, today, we have fast-forwarded, if we were following the official church calendar, we would fast-forward past the first years and we would jump right to Jesus' baptism. We go straight from 8-pound, 7-ounce baby Jesus to 30-year-old man Jesus. And I wonder, what's the hurry? Why are we in such a hurry to rush past Epiphany? I think this is a really important story, and I want us to stop and live with it a little bit this morning and into this next week. I know that it is easier and more convenient just to have the Magi show up with the shepherds. I know that. And yet, if we're being honest, if we're being really honest, I think the reason that we skip over this story, that we don't really honor Matthew's Christmas story, is because we don't know what to do with it. We aren't quite sure what to make of it. And so we focus Christmas around the narrative of Luke, the beautiful narrative of Luke, and we drop the pretty pieces from Matthew's story down into Luke's. And then we tie a beautiful Christmas ribbon on the top of all of it, and then we pack it up and put it away on New Year's Day. We don't know what to do with this story from Matthew, because when we take it as a whole, not just in little individual pieces that we pick and choose, it fills us full of questions and anxiety. And nobody wants more anxiety at Christmas time, and so we skip it. We skip it because this story is full of fear. Everybody is afraid in Matthew's story. The wise ones must have been afraid for several reasons. First, they must have been a little nervous or fearful about leaving home, whatever they had to leave behind and travel all the way. They weren't quite sure who or what they were even looking for. And then, of course, they get crossways with Herod, or rather, Herod gets crossways with them. And they go home by a different route. Herod clearly is afraid. I think it was Ella who said Herod was frightened and all of Jerusalem with him. It was a city full of fear. And the Holy Family, certainly some fear there, especially, and you don't put this in a nice children's story, but the very next story in Matthew's gospel is when Herod is so afraid that he orders the slaughter of the innocents, killing all the children and causing the Holy Family to flee as refugees, leaving everything behind, refugees to Egypt. And so what are we supposed to do with all that? The last line that Audrey read at the end of the scripture telling was, "May you search and find Jesus this season and share your gifts with others." May you search and find Jesus. Perhaps we ought to be a little more careful with that. Because here's what it feels like this story has to say to us this morning. That the journey of divine discovery here on earth is dangerous and risky. And it seems that when we start off and we're faced with such journeys, we have two options. And you see them played out in this story. One is fear, and one is hope. And perhaps there is some truth in whomever said, miracles start to happen when you give as much energy to your dreams as you do your fears. Miracles start to happen when you give as much energy to your dreams as you do your fears. Dreams have a pretty significant part to play in Matthew's Epiphany story. Clearly, the wise ones choose hope, right? The story doesn't tell us exactly what they risked when they set out on this journey of discovery, but they must have left something behind to travel into this story, unknown story of God's future. Choosing to risk to discover a miracle because they dreamed about following a star. And then they literally had a dream at the end of the story, warning them to go home a different way. They trusted in dreams. And the same is true for the Holy Family, of course. There are two sets of literal dreams in Matthew's gospel. Joseph gets a dream about the Christ child. Joseph gets a second dream to lead them out, away from Herod, into their refugee situation. The Holy Family chose to dream, God's dream. And so they left everything behind, all that they had known, to discover what the future was holding. They took a risk so that the divine story might be played out in the world. They didn't know exactly what it meant, but they knew that God had this calling for their family. And they took a risk to find out what that might mean. And they went on a journey. They risked a journey so that the gospel might be made known in the world. They trusted and put their energy into dreams. And it must have certainly been scary, but what is the other option? The option is to choose fear, and well, that puts you in the boat with Herod. A leader leading with fear instead of hope. And so I'm wondering on this Epiphany Sunday, dreaming, one might say, what dreams is God giving us to dream together this year? 3 years ago, we dreamed a dream about what it might mean to follow a new star on a new journey. There was this seeker who was seeking and found this unusual light. And it brought us together. And last year we dreamed about what it might mean to recommit ourselves to our core values. And I'm wondering what we need to dream this year. What dreams God is dreaming for us. What are we going to give our energy to so that miracles might happen, so that the gospel might be made known in the world? And what are we going to have to risk this year so that the gospel might have a chance at life? And I'm wondering what we need to leave behind to journey into God's future for us. And this is true both for us as individuals and for us as a community, to make the gospel real in the world, to know God's dream. And this is why I think Epiphany matters. Each and every year. And that's why we have to spend some time with this complicated story, so that we don't think the journey, the divine journey of discovery, is quick and easy and Christmas is come and gone. So every year, Epiphany. Every year, looking for the star for each of us. Dreaming what dreams might be for us. And I'm wondering where we will find the divine. What surprising and unusual place will the Christ child show up for us? What miracles await us this year? I, for one, am looking forward to getting started and finding out. May it be so. May it be so for us. Amen.